Before this clutch booster was broken, the same type of accessories could not be bought in Pakistan. If it was a car owner, he could only try his luck at the scrapyard. It took only 1 second to find a replacement part because the steel cylinder base was also broken. Fu first used a caliper to measure the appearance of the steel cylinder. After confirming that the data was consistent and it could be replaced, the broken steel cylinder was first fixed on the claw plate. After confirming that the concentricity was correct, it was necessary to use a lathe to cut it. The main purpose was to remove the broken steel cylinder. The whole end face could facilitate subsequent splicing because the interior was hollow. Under the premise of the shaft, Fu had to cut and expand the entire inner diameter and reserve space for the shallow splicing in advance because direct hard connection would cause offset. Therefore, the hole cutter had to be used to process the thread. Although the pipe was relatively thin, the master's processing accuracy was exactly the same. After the master's very skilled operation, the steel cylinder base was processed to pass. When the accessories found at the scrap yard needed to be spliced, the length of the cut steel cylinder had to be measured first and marked on the outer wall according to the data. This is why the steel tube needs to be spliced. Because the splicing of the two requires the inner sort of the hole, it is also necessary to cut the parts outside the marking point according to the depth of the splicing hole to ensure that there will be no changes in the spliced tube mirror. After the master uses the caliper to measure correctly, it is necessary to compare the previous rigging and process the outer ribbing on the surface to improve the strength of the splicing. After the master controls the tool holder to move the tool repeatedly, the ribbing of the type needs to be filed to remove the remaining burrs to prevent the ribbing from rotating and tightening. It will get stuck because their repair shop does not have a high-end slot knife. In order not to affect the length of the steel tube after cutting, their electric saw machine is needed to separate the tail end of the thread in the thread. In this way, the thread length is not enough to cause a hollow valley. After the replacement part is completely cut off, the two can be threaded together. In order to prevent cracking when twisting, the master also needs to inject a certain amount of engine oil into the inner wall so that it can be smoother when rotating. After the master's hands quickly rotated, due to the thickness of the pipe wall, welding with welding rods will also cause it to deform due to heat. In order to prevent the overall inner diameter from changing, Fu prepared to use the hot welding method. After simply heating the steel cylinder, he used a welding saw to perform high-temperature melting welding. The welding saw filled all the gaps on the surface. Without consuming a welding saw, the steel cylinder was completely fixed. Because there will be gaps in the inner wall, in order to avoid unnecessary wear on the push feeling, Fu also needs to grind the entire interior. The joints are as smooth and flat as possible. Then fix a piece of sandpaper on the tang rod. In this way, all the sleeve marks on the inner wall can be polished to improve the overall smoothness. After the master carefully polished the steel cylinder, the ejector pin was used to fix it back on the lathe. The surface of the welding bar was cut by the lathe tool to improve the aesthetics of the steel cylinder surface. After the steel cylinder fully meets the use standards, Fu also needs to clean the power piston and the spring. There is no oil and mud inside. Although they did not use diesel for cleaning, the washing powder's ability to pick up objects is also quite strong. After washing all the accessories, a new oil seal was installed on the push rod to ensure that the steel cylinder, after splicing, can be restored to the original factory state. Then the push rod was limited with yellow paste. When the push rod can move normally and not get stuck, butter should be applied on the outside to reduce the wear caused by work. The clutch booster with a broken steel cylinder was repaired simply. What do you think of the skills of the Pakistani master?